It's good to be back.
It's amazing to be back.
It's so much fun being back.
Could not imagine not being back.
It would be pretty interesting if we weren't back, because you would just not be back.
Yeah.
This is the stupidest way to start an episode.
Yeah, a little bit. It's a little cyclical, kind of going over and over again
Interesting, yeah.
in revolutions.
It's interesting to me. A lot of people enjoy and will even make to happen kind of these signature placeholders. I think there's a name for this in theater, where in episodic things such as this, there's the same phrases, the same way you open, the same way you close, things in the middle. I'm from a rural town. These little things that kind of come back and kind of cue you into where you should be in the mental headspace, root people. And the seasons changing, meaning the literal seasons changing, is kind of one of those things where you get cued in to where you should be in your life because of things that are happening. So if we look at the different seasons, summer, fall, winter, and springtime, it's pretty easy for us to kind of develop memories about them. If I say, like, do you like fall? So easy for people to go, oh yes, the trees, the changing of the leaves, all these different aspects. Hot cocoa, snuggly, nice and warm. Then if I say, think of summertime, so easy to be weekends out on the lake, or going out on these hikes, being in nature, 4th of July parties, doing all this cool stuff. It's so on and so forth in this kind of way. People have their memories that are attached to them. And I think it's very natural that it goes in a particular cycle. When you are entering into fall, when it's fall. You don't actually need a calendar to tell you when the autumn has arrived, so to speak. You can tell from the trees. And so it's really easy for your body to get cues from that as well. And one thing that I see a lot of people do, particularly in my line of work, which is very summer dependent, is this attitude of, oh, summer's over. Now it's time for me to work on myself or maybe reinvent myself. And it's always good to be working on yourself. There's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes it's the wrong frame of mind, because naturally the cycle is in the fall time, you realistically should be calcifying what you have learned throughout the year, resigning yourself to older habits, things that have worked in the past for you, and kind of relaxing so that you can prepare for the winter, which is going to be more of kind of a trudgery.
Yeah, there's more in that sort of fall into winter, because not really something completely foreign concept to me, being a little Arizona boy, who only knows summer and then more summer.
Slightly colder summer.
Yeah, slightly colder summer. And so in that sense, conceptually, it's the idea that at fall into winter time, as you're sort of winding down, is the time to recollect yourself, recollect your thoughts, really just do more of a contemplative action, internalize things, really kind of more studying things that go on, but then also you're not in a place where risks are very good to take. You go out into nature and then you get snowed out and then you're done.
It's over.
Yeah. So in that sense, you go to, I know this place will be safe, so I'm just going to keep on going to this place over and over and over again. And then when weather is better, that's the time where it's way more okay to take a lot more risks, and to every time you reinvent yourself, as you were saying, that is a big risk. And so it's just wildly inappropriate to do that in a time where the seasons just aren't ready for it, which, as you were saying before we started, is that the most common thing modern culture is the New Year's resolutions, to where you are thinking about, I gotta reinvent myself, and then that happens in the middle of winter, which is the middle of the time where you shouldn't be doing any of this stuff whatsoever, which is going to create times to where everybody is failing, because in my experience, for me personally, sun gives me energy. Often happens for a lot of other people too. One could say that we're built for that, built for having sun giving us that extra energy, that extra vitality to be able to do more things and grow, take more risks, in the same way that trees and plants grow in the summer. We do as well. So you're just fighting every single aspect of nature as hard as possible, where there is just absolutely no connection, which goes back into the whole daylight savings thing, is that it is giving you a complete disconnection to where the way that you have to structure your life is being dramatically changed several times a year. And the timing for that is also just making it to where it um, is even more of a dramatic shift to where you are less in tune with the idea of where the seasons are at and then where you should be relative to the seasons. Because if you have a longer summer, you have a longer fall before you get into proper winter mode, then you should still be in fall mode.
Mm-hmm.
When if you build your life around the strict calendar, or you just build your life as a day-to-day thing or month to month thing to where every month is equal to every other month, then going back into what we were saying before is that not every month is built equal.
Yeah.
Every month has their role. Every month has its responsibility. Not necessarily month, but more time of season. And when you understand and accept that this time of the season is where I have the responsibility to do this thing, then it's so much easier to amplify that. Because when you're working in tune, when you're working in nature with honesty with the surroundings that you have, then it's just so much more clear what your path is, and you're just going to have way more success.
Yeah, I think it's very simple in the modern age to be completely disconnected from all these kinds of things. There's a lot of things that are cyclical. I talked previously about how history is not cyclical. We have to abandon that thought because it's depressing and demoralizing. But the seasons, the years being cyclical, are actually really, really encouraging because it's not that you're, Truman Show or the other one, Groundhog Day, reliving the same day again, or like in Truman Show, no matter what you do, it's just going to be the same kind of thing that's predetermined. You get to take the opportunity to impress upon yourself the importance of the season and give yourself the agency to respect what you're feeling. If you want to snuggle up with a hot cup of cocoa and a blanket, then that's probably what you should be doing. That's probably actually good for you. Likewise, if you're in the peak of summer and you just really enjoy exercising and you're just outside, just not getting much sleep, not because you're sleeping poorly, but because you're just dawn until dusk, just going hard on recreational events and work and all this stuff, you shouldn't be worrying about the fact that maybe you're getting less than 8 hours of sleep, or oh, I'm going to bed late every day and I'm waking up early every day. That's fine. The sun will give you the requisite energy. And too many people get to the idea that, well, every day is the same. I need to have the same stuff in every day. And so my workout routine and my diet and my activity level all need to be the same throughout the year. And it's just not the case. Give yourself the liberty to respect that as the seasons change, you have to be in different modes. And so springtime, especially late springtime, is kind of that period where you have the most vitality. Things are getting better, as it were. You're getting more sun each day. It's getting warmer. Your body should be kind of waking up. One of the really interesting things that I find is that people deal with the daylight savings change in the spring oftentimes better than they do in the fall. And I think part of this is because in the springtime, you're already gearing up for summer, and losing that hour of sleep is not as bad as, especially around here with the kind of light we have. Literally, your day is fundamentally different in the fall where you fall back an hour, right? Here, it's just devastating to the whole day. It feels like you run out of daylight, and it's not quite that time yet. You're not quite ready for winter yet. You're realistically, around here anyway, still doing fall things. And it just feels like, oh, the year just stopped. All the days are done now. Whereas in the springtime, it's like the day is longer. You have more. So even though you're losing an hour of sleep, a lot of people actually respond to that better because you're already kind of in that modality. And that just bespeaks to the cycle and how things work. I know me personally, when the fall comes, I'm going back to my old ways of doing things, in the sense that I fall back on older hobbies I've had for a longer time. Whereas in the spring and summer, I'm already take on new projects, new things, buy a car, swap an engine out, or some crazy project. Well, that's not that crazy, but it's a big project. I feel like I have all the time and energy. Whereas in the fall, even something really simple, it's like, oh, I should, probably change that tire out. Ooh, but I want hot cocoa or something.
Yeah, it's already a really rough thing, which is where overall, like, there is so much of a value to having those differences in the seasons, in that you shouldn't be operating perpetually in a single season. And when you have the ability to experience all of the cycles in their fullness, in their totality, to where there are also meaningful differences between this time and that time. Every single time there's a change of season, that's a state break that allows you to sort of get back on track. Whereas if everything is a blur, then it's so much more difficult to uh, kind of really ever get on track or ever do the things that you are being deprived of the seasons for. Which is why, in like sort of a consequence of the way that my life has been going, kind of living the snowbird life and thinking about the idea of the snowbird life to where it's essentially just having perfect weather all year round, to where, you know, a summer's out here, amazingly beautiful, and then winter's back in Arizona, like consensus, very beautiful. I prefer 120-degree weather, but that's just me. Um, with this, you never have a time to where it's not just summer or not just spring. And you can see that in the environment of people that are cultivated in particular environments. You look at the Californian, and it makes so much sense what the overall California culture is when they live in an eternal spring, when it's always time to be doing everything that you said for springtime, or people that are in deep Siberia to where they're always in winter. You're going to have a dramatically different personality shift there, and it's a a fault, like a something that I feel like I'm being deprived of, especially when I'm in a sense of always being in a particular mode and never really having that time where things kind of suck. I think there's value in having time where the weather sucks so that you are able to uh, think about things in a different way. If I think about all of the ways that I would understand winter being of value, and then understanding where my own personal faults are in many ways, is that if I just had winter, it is essentially the missing. It's not like, you know, the silver bullet that's going to magically
Right.
solve every single thing ever, but it is something that I definitely would understand to be a. This is something that I could definitely 100% value, uh, gain value from, that I just completely don't have. And it would be the exact same thing for somebody who does live in a place where they get all of the seasons, but they just don't respect it and they just try to fight against it over and over and over again.
Yeah, I tend to think of people who live in the Midwestern United States just having animosity for every single season.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a bad mentality, and in the sense that, yeah, you have really extreme weather. You know, I've been there. I've spent several seasons in different parts of the country, and it can be really brutal. But when you embrace that and you understand what each season is for, then you kind of have a better view of it. So many people will just complain about the weather constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Wherever you live, I guarantee you, everyone around you is like, "Oh, the weather here is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Our
Yeah.
weather is crazy."
Yeah, it's just like traffic. Like the drivers, it's always just, you know, here is where all the crazy things happen.
Yeah. And it's like you just got to get past that and understand that, you know, you have the weather and you need to find out how that benefits you. And being just a little more specific, in the winter time, or I should say in the fall, kind of leading into winter, is a winding down time. And if you have an office job and your work hours aren't changing,
You're also under fluorescent lights all day.
yes, you are just getting absolutely graped in terms of actually recovering. One of the things that Yasukeh alluded to just a moment ago is the not having winter basically means you just don't have recovery time.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have time where you're just not doing anything. And you think about it in the sense of how historically it was, the winter time was the time you didn't work. You were just working on your little woodworking, whittling project or something inside, safe, eating food, getting fat, and preparing for the huge thing that was going to be springtime.
Yeah, and all of that time can be spent preparing of, I can't wait till it's spring. I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do that thing. And you can constantly reiterate and have these cycles of just refining things over and
Yeah.
over so that when the springtime actually does come, you've had 3 months of planning to actually get this thing done. Whereas if you don't have that, everything is just kind of on a whim. And it's not really a lot of ways of fighting that, because when you're in a spot like Arizona to where it's perpetual, like it's always a nice time to go out. Like I love going out in the middle of summer. I'll do those, you know, 113-degree hikes, no water, perfectly fine. But then everybody else who wants to do things always wants to do things in the winter.
Yeah.
So there's never really a time where it's let's just not do anything for a while, because then that would also be fighting the nature that I have, and that I'm pretending to have something that I don't have. which is identical to denying that you have winter when winter is there. It's also trying to pretend that winter is there when it's not there.
Yeah. I think that the value in that time is really important. I have a job that allows me, for the most part, to work less in the wintertime. It's kind of seasonal. But in the springtime, I do end up doing a lot of different things. And it makes it very difficult to manage gardens and crops
Mm-hmm.
because I don't have as much of that time to just be waiting until, oh, the weather's right, let's go out and start planting, or let's do this thing or that
Mm-hmm.
thing. Instead, I have to usually do work and then come back and do that thing in addition. Whereas if you allow the seasons to kind of dictate that, then you would also understand how farmers work. A lot of the guys that I know that are farmers around here, for them, it's like by the time May rolls around, they are ripping and roaring and ready to go because they've not been doing as much. They've had time to recover. And I think that's just such an important aspect to the human experience is understanding how the cycles work and stepping down from like years. Then there's also months. Like I say, not all months are equal in terms of what you can do in them. There's lunar cycles too. A lot of people don't pay attention to lunar cycles, but if you were reading a farmer's almanac from 1940s, you would probably see in there some moon cycle mentioning where they say, hey, it's going to be a really great time to plant crops because the moon is at this point in the cycle earlier in the year than it was last time. So plant earlier versus planting later. They had a lot of things like that depended on the moon cycles, when the ground was going to be ready, what the temperatures were going to be like based on where the moon is in the given month at that time of year. And the same is true for paying attention to sun cycles. When the sun is lower in the sky, you just get less out of it.
Mm-hmm.
You just do. So even if you are getting sun, you're not getting enough sun.
It just doesn't really hit the same. It doesn't
Yeah.
feel as powerful. I'm getting sun, but it feels like almost like a whimper, as if you're in a sauna that just has too much ventilation and it's just not getting cold enough.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel satisfying at all.
Yeah. It's just unsatisfying. So understanding that all these things kind of move into this. There's also, I'm the star guy. So there's something to be said also for planets and where they are and different star constellations. But I'm not 100% on a lot of that stuff, so I'll save that probably for another podcast when I have more data to share. But there's something to be said for just paying attention. Go out and see what constellations are overhead and start looking at them. And you'll notice patterns emerge, how different seasons also are affected by the constellations. And that's also something you can see in like fishermen's diaries from 100 years ago. They would talk about, when this constellation is out or that constellation is out, then it's going to be good for this or that fish, which is just to our modern sensibilities like hocus pocus. But this was just accepted fact, even just 100 years ago by fishermen.
So a classical way that this was kind of brought up is the idea in The Art of War, to where there's just some moment in there to where it was just brought up as a matter-of-fact thing that when you are committing warfare with fire, that you want to do it at particular points of the moon cycle, and that this is something that will, determine whether or not you actually are able to win the war or use fire in this particular way. And the way that it was stated wasn't that this was some hokey pokey goofy thing. The way that it was stated is how anybody in a culture would state something that is just a matter of fact. And so in the same way that that is true for the moon cycles, it's also just true for sun cycle, solar cycle, lunar cycle, and star cycle. And with what you were saying is that you are the star guy, the star man, one might say.
You could put it that way.
You could put it that way. To where this is something to where you are gaining these bits and pieces of information, but it's also in a sense that because there's so much, disinformation in that space, that we've been so divorced from that so many less people experience that. Me in Arizona, being the sun guy, I'm very sensitive and I'm very in tune with the solar cycles, and I respond to them in a very, very heavy way. Whereas, so that's something that I can experience every single day, watching every sunrise, every sunset from the same spot and seeing how fast the sun is traveling across the sky, and just understanding every single detail about how long does it take the sun to go one sun length in the sky when it's on the horizon at this time of year versus when it's up in the sky at this time of year. So many things that I can learn and understand with that. But then with the stars, One is that it can be much hard to get repetitions, not only just for yourself, but overall with everybody. In that,
Mm-hmm.
even if somebody wants to be sensitive to it, you would take, a lot of the random astrology gals that are probably in the city that would give a lot of valuable information into this kind of stuff if they had the opportunity to, and they just can't. But these cycles do impact you in like pretty significant ways, and it's just a question of actually being able to get in tune with these things. In that concept of, millionaires don't believe in astrology, billionaires do. And
Yeah.
this is like, in the context of the modern age, kind of one of the most advanced cycles that you can become sensitive to and be aware of, at this time of the season, or a couple months back when Mercury was in retrograde,
Yeah.
that certain things are going to happen. You might have somebody reaching out to you that you haven't talked in several years.
I'm going to counter signal you because that one's made up. There's a bunch of other ones.
Okay. Just giving it as an example. I
No,
know
it's a good example though.
Yeah. You are the star guy, so I will defer to you on that. So I accept the counter signal. Um, but yeah, just in the idea that being sensitive to these cycles is in the same context of everything that we're talking about, is that allows you to be harmonious and honest with the things that you're being exposed to and with the cycles that you're actually experiencing.
Yeah, I think when you are thinking about Astrology Girls, there's a lot of hate that's put towards them. They learn a bunch of what I would call the theory of the stars, but they learn it obviously from a terrible source, a source that's designed to mask and hide it. And I've talked to several of these types of women, not because I make a habit of talking to astrology girls, but you can't be in the space without having them there as well, in terms of like asking questions about stars or trying to find things out. It's staggering how many of them have never seen even one of the 12 major constellations. And so if you're going to try and understand maybe the most advanced cycle, I'd say most advanced only because of how many numbers there are. There are so many stars, so many constellations aside from the main 12. We're exposed to the northern constellations almost all year round, meaning we see them most of the time. We can see them every night, basically, all year round. That's not perfectly true, but it's true for this context. But so many people in the northern hemisphere have no idea about them. They don't look at them, and it's because they're taught that basically because there's infinite stars, it's just pointless. But then they're also in light pollution areas where they just can't even see the stars, and it's hard to make a trip. It's even harder if you don't know what you're looking at. But like, I have extensive star maps, and I will be charting stars and looking up and seeing that the stars are actually misshapen compared to like my star charts even. So even if you have an app or an actual star chart that's helping you track the stars, you go out and you look and you're trying to figure out which constellation is which or where they are, you can get really misled because it doesn't look the same from every position.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't have a problem with people not knowing, but it is kind of an epidemic where the people who should know the best don't even really have step one in terms of being able to go out at night and name at least 3 of the constellations that are right overhead.
Yeah, and this is also something that was talked about in the Charles Carroll Thor inquiries, which are very much in the vein of where it's been reeling. In that, one of the concepts being talked about is that we even kind of have these like defensive things to where even if we're saying that there might be some value in astrology, still kind of playing into the idea of like, oh yeah, astrology is good, but like not like the silly, Pacific Northwest girls and their astrology
have
stuff.
To caveat everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, having to caveat everything of like, this is just something that we've just been kind of grown into, and it's something that you just don't have to do that.
No, you don't.
And then also it's just they are interested in this thing for a reason, and the downsides is not necessarily like a personal fault in the same way of just talking about obese or overweight people, is that it's just about having sympathy for people in their situations, to where even if they are, because they aren't able to get the information and be actually connected to the cycles, they're going to have more faults in their ideas. That's not something that is to be looked at with scorn, because it also just is, at least for pretty much everything, you're going to find people who are attempting to do a thing and then not necessarily being able to get all of the way, but they're still trying. Somebody who is uh, overweight person or just out of shape person going to the gym, doesn't have any gym friends, or doesn't really trust personal trainers, because you shouldn't trust a gym personal trainer. It's really difficult to find an actually good quality personal trainer. The personal trainers that, you're going to get a free consultation any gym you go to, and it's just going to be the worst, most manipulative people possible.
Yeah, it's just terrible.
So in this sense, like, they're still trying, and they're still, good-hearted, and not really taking that as a personal fault in them, because they're trying to get in touch with the cycles. As an example, with working out is a very similar cycle, in that you do have times where you do want to be working out, to be lifting, and then times for the rest, relaxation, recuperation, food, nourishment, etc. In the same way that there are daily cycles, in that, I don't know about you guys, but I wake up every day.
Interesting.
And there are many things that you do every day. And there is that daily cycle, which is, everybody interacts with it. Everybody understands that there is a daily cycle, but there's just so many other cycles that, one, play into that you can be more aware of, but then two, get more in touch with to go even further beyond.
I think, touching back to the astrology girl thing, something we talked about last episode was women just kind of naturally being more sensible, more sensitive, typically speaking, to a lot of kind of aesthetic changes around them. And so people love to make fun of astrology girls, because women are so gullible and stupid or something, when the reality is maybe they have actually just noticed that this affects them. And so naturally they're going to be inquiring, and it's not their fault that all the information is designed to mislead and to be somewhat self-destructive. But I mean, if you could see something, you would want to know more about it. And just because you don't see it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not there. And so in that case, I think women are typically just more sensitive to their surroundings. I know my experience has been, the meme online is like, guys will have, a plastic chair, an Xbox 360, and a TV set up on the box it came in, and think there's nothing wrong with this setup.
Yeah.
And all the guys are like, yeah, of course, there is nothing wrong with this setup.
Glorifying this is the best, like, man cave male space possible.
And it's like, no, the women are right. There's a problem with that. That's not okay. That's unhealthy for you. Not because of neck posture, but because it's aesthetic terrorism.
Yeah. And so that just goes into, there are going to be things that you aren't great at, you aren't able to be more in tune with, and then also just taking that information from other people. I don't have as much experience with the stars because I can't see the stars. Not just because I'm blind, because I'm blind. But because I'm getting graped by the LED lights of the streets that just drown everything out. And it wasn't until 2017 that I properly went out at a time where there was night, and I'm like, whoa, there are things up in the sky. There are lights.
Yeah.
They actually exist. Which is something that you can know in theory, but not actually know personally, that, like, it's so magnificent looking at the sky.
Yeah. One of my favorite things is, not to dox myself too much, but I live in a valley. The advantage of living in a valley is it actually does cup kind of light pollution out. Being rural as well, it helps a lot. So you can just see a lot of stars where I am, and that makes sense. That's why I'm the star guy. Every night when I'm walking home, I just look up, and then I have a bunch of telescopes now, and it's super fun getting to know each of the stars kind of personally in a way. So many people are not interested in the stars, and I blame the astrophysics space, where they basically have all these crazy photos from James Webb and the Hubble and all this stuff, which are Boeing 747 or something. They have all these pictures that just look phenomenal, and so you think, oh, if I'm not seeing that, what's the point? I'll just let the professionals do it. And then you find out that those images are actually just 100% fake. They literally just like shot radiation at the sky and then got back a radio wave signal, and then they hire an artist to be like, translate this into light for us.
Just interpret it. And you see it with pretty much everything, where you'll see the exact same, like the you know what it's called, like the finger of God or whatever, like the big giant cluster that exists, biggest cluster in the sky.
You talking about Andromeda, or are you talking about Milky Way?
some big,
Okay.
massive supercluster in the sky. And
Could be Pleiades. I'm not sure.
yeah, every single photo that you'll see of it.
You would expect me to know, but I'm just like, I don't know what they think.
Every single photo you see of it is just a different color.
Yeah, yeah.
Which is the most clear way of just seeing that on that level is a very obvious way of seeing that, it's just all interpretation.
Yeah.
But then it's also just something that the way that it's given to you is just like, oh, this is just the reality of what it is. And you're never going to get that image yourself. So why would you ever get the lower quality version of it that you don't have access to? Whereas the only thing that you have access to is the thing that you actually have access to.
Yeah. And so, like, when I first got into telescoping and kind of looking at the stars, I was surprised by how difficult it is to capture a star in the lens, especially at the magnification we're talking about. And I don't have unlimited money to buy just the most enormous wide angle lens that I can for a telescope. So I have an automatic telescope, but I also have some hand wind ones, and it's like just tracking it through the sky can be an activity in of itself. I very frequently will be like, okay, wife, I'm going to go outside and look at stars for a few minutes. And it's like a couple hours. I'm just like following this one star through the sky because it's so fascinating how when you actually get to look at it and you see it for yourself, it looks nothing like any of the pictures. Every time I see a picture of a star, I almost want to scream. I'm just like, that's not what that looks like, especially if it's a star I know. A very big one is Vega, the brightest star in the northern hemisphere. Every time I see a picture of Vega, I'm like, that's not the shape, that's not the color, which it goes through cycles of shapes and colors. So when you're watching it, it's like dancing and does all these different things. And every astrophysicist will just be like, that's just radiation in the atmosphere making it do that. Not only do I not buy that, you're a Satanist for saying it. But like, just tracking one star through the night sky for a couple hours, for me, thrilling. Maybe for other people, not so much. But the point is simply that once you even get that first taste of like, this is what it looks like, I can actually see this and look at this, it does change how you view each star, because now you're like, wait, each of these stars, and then I have filters and other things. You just keep buying things like, I want to look at this star, so I'm going to get a specific lens that is for looking at this star, because it's going to help me see it, and different light levels and amplitudes and things like this. It's just crazy. And so the point I'm making is just, so many people are uninterested because they think they have the picture, and they just don't. You've not seen it. You haven't seen what it actually is. And so when you do get to see it, I've had several people come out stargazing with me and look in the telescope and just be like, whoa, I just didn't know. Not terribly long ago, we got to look at Saturn, and a couple of guys who are close in my clan here were just like, oh, I didn't know you could look at Saturn. I didn't know you could see that. That's so cool. And that's just one example of how, if you stop trusting kind of what these people are telling you and look at them yourself, you'll see the cycles too. Just tracking the stars through the northern hemisphere and just being like, oh, this one was here last night and it's over here and it's moving this way. Something I didn't expect, and this is that I'm getting way off topic, but something I didn't expect to see, and something that I see almost every night, is that around here things cycle like this in the heavens. They go this way. And so you would expect to see, for instance, Orion. If Orion is up right here, as he moves around this way, he turns kind of like this. And the opposite happens, where he's actually turning like this as he goes around. Just insane. No one's ever been able to explain that to me. That's one of the first times I was like, why is this not being brought up in like flat earth discussion? No one wants to talk about the fact that this is just rotating the wrong direction for what should be happening. And every time I bring that up with anyone, they're always just kind of like, no, it doesn't. Okay, I see this every single night, and I can measure it and just watch it. I have a sextant. I can just be like, oh yeah, it's like closer to the horizon. But yeah, people always just tell me stuff like that all the time, who have never looked in a telescope or who have never actually looked with their own eyes. They're just like, it says here on Wikipedia, you're wrong.
Yeah, and this also just goes in the general idea is that there really just are so few people that actually do this. And so there's not really any foundational part to build upon.
Yeah.
Whereas the moon and sun cycles are a little bit easier to understand, whereas the celestial cycle, it's much harder to build the correlations of this is where the sky is and these are the things that are happening because of it, when you don't have thousands of years or hundreds of years of people doing the exact same thing, and all of these other people who are observing it from different places, getting all of this information and being able to sort of collect that. And then, like with what you're saying, with the way that the cluster is rotating, you're just getting a lot of fake data as well. which
Yeah.
is like really, really difficult to parse out of just all of this signal white noise that is just not giving you a clear picture to be able to do things. Going back into the point of cycles in general, topic that we talked about a few podcasts ago is just the idea is that according to a study, according to a paper, as we know, there's the concept that before 2010, women's menstrual cycles, 28-day cycle, so or the lunar cycle also happens to be 28 days, is that the
Foreshadowing or something.
yeah. So women's menstrual cycles before 2010 were pretty consistently lined up with the lunar cycle, and then afterwards, now all of a sudden they're not. And obvious cause of that is that screens are giving you all of this fake data, and that you're getting this very strong blue light at night that is not coming from the moon, because it would be, a similar style of light. So then all of a sudden you're just getting completely out of whack, and then you are being morphed into a cycle that has no coherency. There is no order, so your entire life just becomes chaos. And now women have like pretty insane irregularity.
Yeah.
And then this also just goes into that when you can actually explain these concepts in ways that actually give real, tangible value in terms of here's why you should be paying attention to this, here's why you should be doing this. So many people that I've helped with in the internet gamer space, in terms of just getting sun, taking circadian rhythm seriously, because some random league streamer might be on just the most degen hours possible, and just wondering, hey, what's up with all these health issues? Like I got my diet in check, so why isn't everything perfect? Whereas getting the sunlight in check and watching the sunrise, watching the sunset, being serious about that, it's very clear what the benefits are as soon as you start to become more sensitive to that and become within the order of the sun. And then exact same thing that you can experience or look at with women's menstrual cycles is that when women are more in touch with the moon and aren't on like really insanely bright blue light screens all night, then when that is something that can become more regular and then there's meaningful health improvements that come from that, it's a really, really easy way to get people to understand that, oh, hey, this is something that's actually important and something to take care about. And when you give the example of one cycle that isn't classically understood to be as important, and then you get enough buy-in to where they're willing to try it for a bit and they're like, oh, hey, this is just giving me massive improvements, then all of a sudden it can be really easy to just see it everywhere.
Yeah.
And just be a complete state break of this is a concept that I talked with a league streamer, LS, about, just the idea of like snowballing thoughts and like the way of just snowballing red pills, in that when you get one thing that is just completely outside of what the system understands and what the system will tell you is what is important to care about and what is not important to care about, you get one thing that is just dramatically different, and you are kind of looked at as a crazy person by polite society. But 100% factually speaking, that this is a really important thing. It's really important to take care of your circadian health properly. Then it puts you into a position of, oh, what are all these other things that are being lied to me about?
Yeah. Once you get out of one mental handicap, it's really easy to break all the other handicaps that are being supplied to you in that regard. I think one of the interesting things about cycles regarding the stars, last thing about stars, is that any given season or time, you can only see maybe a quarter of the major constellations at any given time because of how they move around. And each constellation tends to move almost, but not quite, in month cycles, in terms of it'll be the dominant constellation, as we term it in astrology. That's something that's kind of cool, but it makes you appreciate the season change too, because of the season change, you get to look at different constellations. And so it's almost like an old friend coming back around to visit when you finally get to see Orion again, for instance, which is a popular one that most people can find. And it goes away for like half the year and comes back. And I'm always super excited. And I'll be just telling people, oh, guys, I saw Orion last night, and he's like just over the horizon right before sunrise or something, and then just kind of like, all right, cool. No, this is a big deal.
Yeah, no, it's my friend that I haven't seen for half a year.
Exactly. But it's important And that's kind of the cycle aspect. You get grounded in that, and you understand that it's not just a day. It's not just a date on a calendar that determines when seasons change. Every day you get to see different things change. And it's not a secret to the Yasukordians, but I do kind of like a moon festival thing.
Mhm.
On the full moon, I like to stay up late, sometimes all night if I can.
Mhm.
And almost zero repercussions from that. Even if it's a work day, the next day can stay up most of the night and not have any real problems with that. Get an hour, 2 hours of sleep. Full moon just gives crazy energy.
Mhm.
And a lot of people will complain about, oh, moonlight keeping me up at night. If you fight it, I think it's worse.
Yeah, that's a big thing, is that I don't do the moon festivals, and every time that I don't do that, which is, every time there's a full moon,
Right.
I really regret it, because I have the most intense negative dreams during the full moon, and it's just a horrible experience that if I were to take that cycle seriously, I would greatly benefit from it. And that is just a common theme that even if people don't really know how to vocalize it, if you just ask around, or people will even just tell you that, like, this thing is going wrong, that thing is going wrong. I got really bad sleep last night. I had this really weird nightmare last night.
Yeah.
You'll hear that and you'll see that consistently if you're just able to understand that that is a theme, and that that is something that you can um, observe as a pattern that happens. And when that pattern happens, it's not like there's anything else that is connecting the events with people. It's not like they're, splurting out more 5G radiation at this time, because it applies to people in rural areas too, which I don't know if people know, but
I live in a rural area, so you would
There
think
you go.
I would be free from these kinds of things. But kind of going back to just lighting, look at firelight and like incandescent light. I know you've talked about this on a lot of different platforms. You're kind of the light guy too.
Mhm.
The barefoot, posture king, light pilled,
yeah,
you name it. But like firelight is super, super good. So one of the things to do, full moon plus a fire. So you're getting this really, really good red infrared light that is
very
warming
warm.
you.
Yeah.
So then you're out all night. You have the moonlight, but then you also have like this balancing red light.
Mhm.
It's such an amazing experience. And if you do manage to sleep, your sleep is so much better
Mhm.
because you've got that infrared that's just keeping you so warm.
Mhm.
Not everywhere is able to do this. Obviously, the weather here sometimes is terrible. It's just not possible.
Mhm.
But in general, this is a really, really good kind of metric and thing to pay attention to. And obviously, I understand people in the city can't just light a fire in their backyard,
Mhm.
but sometimes they can.
Mhm.
You have a little fire pit in your backyard. It's not impossible.
Mhm.
Investing in a fire pit, probably one of the greatest things you can do anyway.
Could literally just take a couple of bricks, and in Arizona, where I'm from an Arizona area, a lot of just rock yards, to
Yeah.
where it's just kind of really perfect and optimal to just take 20 bricks, build a little circle, and then all of a sudden you have a fire pit. You don't need to do anything more crazy than that, and it is just such an enjoyable time to be able to have that fire. Also, going back to something we talked about a few podcasts ago in terms of like white noise, any other light source that you have, like unfortunately this light here is just consistent. It's just
Yeah.
always going on. There's nothing exciting about it. Whereas a fire, just looking at a fire is kind of insane for how much it can inspire you and how much it can get you thinking about things, because to one degree or another in your head, you are making sense of this extra information that you're being given, and almost naturally your brain will make stories and make sense of things based on the fire that you're given.
Yeah. Having a fire just feels great. And not enough people have fires in general in their lives. Where I was raised, bonfires were a pretty big deal. And here, not as much, but bonfires are an amazing fun time because you get all that inspiration from the fire itself. But kind of an aside from that, people don't even recognize a lot of times when they're being motivated to do something. They'll think, oh, I just got the itch to do this or the itch to do that. Not even understanding that you're actually being influenced by these cycles, things that are pushing you towards that direction, and it's totally fine. It's okay to just allow that to go. I think about when, for me, a lot of times, like coffee, it's just kind of a habitual thing. It's very nice. I enjoy coffee. And then sometimes I actually want to sit inside like a nice cozy coffee shop with my family and just enjoy coffee for an hour. I don't think that's an accident. A lot of times I'll notice there are things in my life, there's things around me, whether they're celestial in nature or soul in nature, that are kind of prompting this kind of thing. It's not, oh, I just had this idea. And this is kind of one of those issues that permeates the zeitgeist of our modern society, which is, oh, things just come in my head randomly, and I can't do anything to stop that or to fight that.
Mm-hmm.
You can control what goes in your head, but also recognizing where things come from.
Mm-hmm.
Things oftentimes are external. They come from the outside. There's so many movies about this, which I detest. Think about Inception. And there's another one out there where it's like, oh, we got the guy to say the number we wanted by exterior suggestions over the past like 4 days or whatever. It's just stupid for us to look at that and go, oh yeah, the psychology behind that is sound, but then not be like, well, where the moon is every night in a row, progressively leading towards one thing, that doesn't suggest me anything. Like, no, these things come external. Not that the moon is a consciousness. A lot of cultures will put emphasis on that oh, the moon is like an actual being. I don't believe that particular thing, but there's a deeper conversation about what I believe specifically about that. But the point simply being that thoughts come from the exterior. It could either be the media you're consuming, it can be just the cycles around you and how they're progressing. It can also just be the people you're around making you think about things. And so taking control of what comes in and understanding where it came from can help you decide whether to act on that thought or not act on that thought, instead of just kind of being like, oh, I thought this thing, I'll go do this. It's the Buzz Lightyear meme,
Yeah.
I thought I'd curl up with a blanket and get a hot cocoa.
Yeah. Like there was a time where we're working outside in the summer, and it just felt like a day. Do something I never did, just get a cup of hot cocoa. It was the most satisfying thing possible. And then me in my graped state next day when it's all sunny, I'm just like, wow, that was a really nice feeling. I'm gonna get another hot cocoa. And it was just not a great experience whatsoever.
Yeah.
I could taste all of the artificialness. I could emphasize all of the negatives of it, and it just wasn't a valuable experience at all, because it just wasn't a hot cocoa time.
Yeah.
Because there is hot cocoa time and there's not hot cocoa time. And
that's the whole point.
Yeah, is just appreciate when it is time to have hot cocoa, and when it's time to have some nice cold glass of lemonade or something like that.
Tea and lemonade, blank, blank, blank. I'm not shouting out brands.
Yeah, no brands unless they sponsor the It's Been Real podcast.
Exactly.
Which also not going to take sponsorships unless I know the business personally that is being sponsored by, because I don't want to help people that I don't have a direct connection to in that sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to be promoting brands that I don't have the particular awareness of. This episode to you is brought to you by this cat, the It's Been Real cat.
Can we dox the cat by naming it? Can we release Cat's name?
We can release Cat's name.
Cat's name is Chocolate.
Okay.
Which is so appropriate that Chocolate would curl up on your lap.
Yes.
Has done it before. But specifically on the episode where we're talking about hot chocolate. And the cat is like, I want to be a hot chocolate.
He is giving me a pretty insane amount of warmth right now, and I'm very much appreciating it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, in that it's just, you'll see this with behavior in, cats and dogs when you just pay attention to it, is that, something can be erratic behavior when, as we were saying before, a sailor with no destination has no favorable winds. There's always a cycle and always an order to things, and people always operate best when you are within a coherent and consistent cycle and order that you can then work and operate under. Whereas when you have infinity options, infinity possibilities, nothing is off the table whatsoever, then your life is going to be chaotic and it's just going to be disorder, and you're not going to be happy. Nobody around you is going to be happy. So just taking every single moment that you can with everything we talked about last episode and this episode to just understand that there is order in all of these aspects, to where you might not think there's order in your life, and really just appreciate them. Be honest with them in that, accept that they are real and that they have a very high influence on your life, and your life will be better when you start to actually respect them.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about last episode was we talked a little bit about behaviors, difference between men and women. And something you have talked about a while ago was cats being feminine, yes? And it's interesting because cats just want a warm place to lay down, and they're just super content as long as your energy is calm. Women have a similar kind of thing. And also, cats love a tasty treat every now and then. And when you give them a tasty treat, they are just so happy and pleasant to be around.
Yeah.
Likewise, women need tasty treats every now and then. And so it's kind of past that time now. But in the fall, and especially in the middle of winter, you need to make sure that you're feeding your women tasty treats every now and then.
Yes.
Recognize when they need a tasty treat, and be sure to supply that. Otherwise,
because this is something that is a consistent cycle of needing the tasty treats.
Yeah.
And if you don't read the cycle, then all of a sudden you're just like, oh well, all these like horrible things are happening that I don't understand, and like she's evil. All women are evil.
Yeah.
All women are just the worst thing ever. Whereas you just understand that there's a cycle, and taking charge, and just intuiting it, understanding that hey, it's tasty treat time.
Yeah.
So we're going to make this happen. Make the tasty treat happen.
Yeah. So just in that regard, I think cycles are so important. I know we said this a lot of times, but embracing them, understanding where they come from and the thought processes behind them is going to help you have control. One of the things that I see a lot of people do is they're a slave to their whims. And so they are just kind of taking things as they come. And because they have decided at a point prior that they're not going to do X thing, then when it is time for that thing, they fight it, and they spend so much energy going against their own nature that it's not productive. We talk about good stresses and bad stresses, and the worst stress is really when your body is crying out for a specific thing, and it would be good to have that thing, but because of a previous decision you've made about like how you're going to conduct yourself, you don't do it. And I'm obviously talking about more or less inane things. I think we've talked about caffeine before. People like, oh, I'm going to give up caffeine, and they're struggle, and they're fine for a while, and then there's like a point in their life where they need caffeine, and they're just depriving themselves because like, oh, I'm not going to have it, and it's so horrible, I'm having such a hard time. And then they have caffeine, and it's like, oh, this is great.
Yeah. This is the thing, is just like being able to just be a little bit more intuitive with things, and then understanding that if you are in a cut and you're trying to lose weight and you're getting sick, and you're just getting really high stressed out, high strung for things, you don't need to have the same level of strictness and stress that the diet demands as a carte blanche thing. You can just decide, all right, for this one day, I'm just going to take a little tasty treat, and that tasty treat will allow me to get back on track sooner, as opposed to going further and further down into these negative cycles.
Yeah, because you may make it another week on your cut before you have like a total break, and then you're just eating all the bad stuff. Or you can be like, okay, after gym today, I'm going to go get, a mocha, or I'm going to get a little bit of ice cream, buy some good quality ice cream without thickeners and other garbage in it. And it's like, yeah, your calorie goal for that day may not be perfect, and you may not have hit exactly what you wanted, but that little thing is going to help you in accomplishing your goals. You're going to be able to go, okay, I can keep doing this. I can keep going. Had a guy say to me one time, he was having a real tough time on a, what do you call that? When you remove everything out of the diet.
Elimination diet?
Yeah, he was doing an elimination diet to try and solve some issues. He was on like day 3 of a really strict diet, and he's talking in my kitchen. He's like, I can't do this. I can't do another day of this. Actually, he didn't say that. What he said was, I can't do this for like 6 months. And me and some other people were like, just do it for today. Just finish today, and then tomorrow, try it again tomorrow, and the next day try it again. And he made it 6 more months on that kind of thought process. But it takes kind of allowing himself that mental treat of, I only have to do this until tomorrow. And then the next day he wakes up refreshed. He's like, well, I only have to do this until tomorrow. And so there's kind of that mental version of the treat as well, allowing yourself to forget about the big picture, especially when you're in the midst of it. Don't think, 6 more weeks of this. Just think like, oh, well, at least just today. And then the next morning, re-examine your mental state, your motivations, and you make it another day, do one more day. And just keep doing that instead of like getting bogged down in, I got to do this thing until blah, blah, blah date.
Perfect time. That's a call that can wait.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a call that can wait. I intuited that there was going to be a call.
Clearly, I'm impressed. It's the cyclers.
yeah. It was just a cycle of like, understanding other people's cycles and then understanding, oh, this is when this person is going to be calling me.
Mm-hmm.
See, this is what happens when you're completely in tune with every single cycle that is being revolved around you. You can intuit when you get a completely out of the blue call at a time that could be kind of out of nowhere, kind of unexpected, and just get on it. So that's what happens when you keep it real. And with that being said, it's been real.
It's been real.
It's been real.
How are you gonna get that cat off your lap?
You're gonna have to stop recording.
I have to do it. Okay.
You have to do it, not me. Goodbye.